Russia is beginning to lose one of its closest allies. A major political scandal has erupted between Mordor and Kazakhstan. The fact is, Kazakhs are tired of putting up with the aggressive outbursts of their fascist-leaning neighbor and have banned entry into the country. A whole group of high-ranking officials from Russia, including even the deputy speaker of the State Duma. The reason is the public, insulting and hostile statements made by all these individuals about Kazakhstan and its leadership. For example, Pyotr Tolstoy called Kazakhstan the next problem after Ukraine, claimed that Almaty is a Russian city, and accused Astana of inventing its own history to distance itself from Russia. The blacklist, sent off after the warship, includes notorious propagandists and war criminals. Among them are the chief ideologists of Russian Nazism and Putin's personal beard, Alexander Dugin, propagandists Tina Kandelaki and Tina Kiasayan, and State Duma deputies Yevgeny Fedorov, Vyacheslav Nikonov and Pyotr Tolstoy, as well as the old worn-out imperialists Konstantin Zatulin and Yevgeny Primakov. All these rebels has publicly laid claim to the lands of Kazakhstan and generally refuses to recognize the legitimacy of this state. This week, Deputy Fedorov resurfaced again. The State Duma member believes that Kazakhstan did not leave the Soviet Union in accordance with international law. Therefore, the country can be considered a territory of not entirely legal status. As long as they have not officially legally left the USSR and the law adopted by the USSR and Russia stands, this status should be fixed in international documents, for example, in bilateral agreements. Kazakhstan did not hold a referendum on leaving the USSR, though not confuse this with the referendum on independence. In other words, there were no exit procedures and accordingly no actual exit at all. Pyotr Tolstoy does not even hide the fact that Kazakhstan will be next after Ukraine. He openly threatens the Kazakh people. If we don't resolve the issue with Ukraine, then we will have problems with Kazakhstan, Armenia, and other countries that surround us. Even with Kazakhstan, you think? Well, of course. Why? Well, just look at what's happening in Kazakhstan today in terms of, so to speak, building up a certain Kazakh statehood. The flourishing national mythology there about independence, about switching to the Latin alphabet. There's a lot of interesting things going on there if you take a closer look. Just think about it. This is what the deputy speaker of the Russian parliament says about the Union state. Kazakhstan is a member of the CSTO and is supposedly under Russia's protection. Well, as they say, those who have read the Budapest Memorandum don't laugh at the circus. Any paper signed with Russia should be regarded purely as a complete and utter joke. He was not the original individual. He really liked to consume alcoholic beverages. I've started joking significantly less and have almost entirely stopped laughing altogether. The Kremlin has long been cultivating hatred towards Kazakhstan. They are using the same tactics as they did against Ukraine. Even the talking points are identical. All this nonsense about Kazakhstan never having existed, that it is originally Russian land, and Kazakhstan must all be returned to their elder brothers. Listen, let's pay attention to the fact that the next problem is Kazakhstan. Because the same, Nazi processes that are happening now in Ukraine could also start there. And our borders are there, and there are a lot of Russians there, and tourists and blueprints, and to argue. And by the way, the nuclear fuel for our entire site is also there. We recognized it. In general, the orcs, like real Nazis, are humiliating Kazakh culture and language. Russians even reject the very right of Kazakhs to their own independent statehood. The undeniable fact that the Kazakhs dared to create their own sovereign and independent state deeply offended the Russians to their very core. The imperialists are so outraged they can't even eat. But when an official government body of Kazakhstan says, "We absolutely do not remember any gifts. This isn't a gift at all. It's something that we took from you. And if you took it from us, well, it's either a gift or it was taken, then let's have a conversation with you." In a different way, in another language, guys, Kazakhs. You see, when we raise the issues of returning territories and overturning the illegal decisions of 1991, in reality, we have only one limitation, a moral one. And of course, the main sign of impending aggression is the whipping up of hysteria about the oppression of the Russian-speaking population. Tina Kandelaki published a post in which she claims that there, slowly but surely, Russian is being pushed out at the state level. The Ministry of Transport of the Republic wanted to rename several railway stations, replacing Russian names with Kazakh ones. For example, they proposed to change the station Uralsk to Oral-Uzen to Janauzen and so on. As the experience of the Baltics shows, this is a very dangerous trend. This suggests that Russia is planning to kill Russian speakers. Now, the same is happening in Kazakhstan. Overall, the situation is reminiscent of Ukraine in 2014, which had leased a base in Sevastopol. And it was from there that the invasion began. Russia also leases a huge territory in Baikonur from Kazakhstan. Just like Crimea, it gives the racists no peace, and they're drooling all over it, salivating, so that they force Russian teachers in Pavlodar to apologize when they say that it was Russians who built this city. And I am against them forgetting that Almaty is a loyal city. A Russian fortress, Cossack Russian propaganda is actively conducting anti-Kazakh activities both in Russia and in Kazakhstan itself. They are portraying Kazakhs as the enemy and dehumanizing them. Russians in general have always shown demonstrative disrespect towards Kazakhs as well as towards other peoples. Kazakhstan, my dear brothers, what kind of profound ingratitude is this that you are showing? Guys, did you really think that? Do you think Russia is just going to disappear somewhere? Emigrate to Mars? Or do you think you'll be the ones to emigrate? Take a good look at Ukraine. Think about it seriously. Of course, hatred breeds hatred. In Kazakhstan, they started chasing Russians out with wet rags, both in Thailand and Maine. Those who, due to their sheer and utter stupidity, thought of displaying fascist Z symbols are especially being scooped up. Sergei Fedorov, look, see, clean it up. Clean it up already. There was no such thing. Come on, clean it up now. I'm filming right now. Come on, clean it up. Faster. Pure Russians, not by smartphone. No. They're in Kazakhstan right now. Let them drive in Russia. You can't drive in Kazakhstan. Clean it up, come on. Faster. Don't shout, our father has died. They came, they're not Russians, their passports are printed out, and customs didn't say anything about it. Thanks to the insane, aggressive Russian propaganda, Kazakhs have realized who the real enemy is and who's a friend and ally. While the leadership of Kazakhstan continues to flirt with the Moscow terrorists, the majority of Kazakhs have clearly decided whose side they are on. Death to Russian fascists, occupiers who kill and rape for money. They steal, they loot, it's someone else's country. Glory to Ukraine! Crimea is Ukrainian. We, Kazakhs, stand for the happiness of Ukrainians and for the happiness of our own children. We hate Russians like we hate the Pandorans. Despite Moscow's obvious aggressive actions, the president of Kazakhstan decided to attend the May 9 parade. And this is in fact support for the aggressor. Because during the war, Tokay will be reviewing the parade of Russian troops. And ironically, these very same troops could invade Kazakhstan in the near future. And the only thing stopping them is Ukraine, which for the 4th year has been fighting and destroying them like cockroaches. We had a case, I'm telling you, I just mentioned how we were pulling out the wounded, ferrying them across the canal. They couldn't get out of their burrow for a week. They were sitting in that hole. They spent a week in the pit, rotting there. The smell coming from them was unbelievable. There were rotting corpses lying there, a sea of bodies. Torn body parts, arms, legs, half a head. You walk around and see all this. Literally, you're walking over human remains. The leaders of those former Soviet republics who will be in Moscow on May 9, standing next to the pale geostrategist, need to understand that they will be greeting and waving to the future murderers and executioners of their own peoples. Thoughts like that could make you choke on a St. George ribbon. Attending Putin's parade is a crime against your own country. There is not a single reason for the president of Kazakhstan to take part in this disgraceful event. All the more so since he is one of the few who dares to openly put Putin in his place. Tokayev gave Putin a particularly memorable dressing down when the latter once again started bleating about Russian speakers in Kazakhstan.
They were truly surprised to hear that the president of Kazakhstan speaks Kazakh.
Chauvinistic arrogance is practically dripping from their faces. That was hard-earned money, darling. Despite being a military ally of Russia, Kazakhstan does not recognize the occupation of Ukrainian territories and stands for the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Moreover, Tokayev delivered this message right into the piggy eyes of the dwarf conqueror. We do not officially recognize Taiwan, Kosovo, South Ossetia, or Abkhazia. And apparently, this fundamental principle will also be applied to other quasi-state territories, which, in our considered view, include both Luhansk and Donetsk. At the very end of March, a prominent representative of President Tokayev's administration clearly emphasized that Kazakhstan profoundly respects the territorial integrity of Ukraine. This significant stance was reiterated multiple times. Naturally, without Tokayev's personal approval, blacklists of Russian officials and propagandists could not have been compiled. The orcs even managed to anger one of their most loyal neighbors. We hope the next step will be to invite Putin to Astana and arrest him in accordance with the decision of the International Criminal Court. Such an action could truly prevent Moscow from attacking Kazakhstan. I'm telling you, this is how the problem differs. Russian fascists understand. Only fourth. The more you try to make concessions to them and build good neighborly relations, the more aggressive and bloodthirsty they become. Any friendly gesture is consistently seen by Russian fascists as a clear sign of weakness and a compelling reason to attack. The Kazakhs understand perfectly well that after accusations against them claims that there are absolutely no rights for ethnic Russians in Kazakhstan tanks could inevitably follow. Military actions and provocations could potentially begin. That's precisely why in Kazakhstan they understand very well that if they allow the separatists to run wild, then later these very people, these separatists, could claim that northern Kazakhstan truly wants to secede from Kazakhstan, or that eastern Kazakhstan wants to break away from Kazakhstan. In other words, the Ukrainian scenario could be implemented in Kazakhstan. Russian fascists only understand a kick in the backside and a punch in the face. Fortunately, people in Kazakhstan are very well aware of this significant situation, and we sincerely hope that they will soon join the brave Ukrainians to bring down Putin's oppressive regime together. I remember I asked someone a question. I said, damn, that's a beautiful coat of arms, the trident. What does the trident mean? He says there's also the word will in it. I remember we were somewhere on Kreshatik, and there was this stand. I said, what do you mean? How is it will? He says, look closely. So I look at it like this, and I actually see V-O-L-Y-A. And I liked it so much that this symbol of freedom is in the coat of arms, yes. And from that moment on, I dreamed of getting it tattooed, but there was never a good opportunity. So when I became a defender of Ukraine, the first thing I did was remind myself, in the most visible place, that I'm a free person.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.